So this problem asks you to find the equation for a line, and you correctly said that anytime you're asked for the equation for a line, you need to search for two things: a point
and a slope.
Okay, well the point is easy here; they give it to you straight away, and a slope. And evidently, this business right here is going to tell us the slope, but that's the hard part. We don't exactly know how. But let's go ahead and get ready to produce the answer.
Yeah.
We know that point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m
Times x minus x1.
Right. And in our particular case, it's going to be y minus 2 equals m x plus 5. Right? And the question is, what's the m? Perpendicular slopes.
Negative reciprocal
Right.
to the slope that you find.
So if m is the slope of, let's call this star. If m is the slope of star, we need -1 over m. Right? Okay. How do I find the slope of star?
Using the equation they gave 3x minus 7y equals 13, you isolate y.
Right, okay.
And then divide, in this case, everything by
Sure.
7. Yeah.
So 3x minus 7y equals 13. If I'm looking for y equals mx plus b, which tells me the slope, then one way to get that is, like you said, solve for y. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. Solve for y. 3x minus 13 is 7y. Right? 3 over 7x minus
13 over 7.
At this point, it doesn't really matter. What matters is...
You have 3 over 7, which is the slope.
Right. So we found the ingredient that we need, but we need to translate it to our perpendicular slope.
So it would basically be negative 7/3, right?
Right. So this m right here is negative 7/3.
And you're done.
Right. And that's pretty much it. There is another way you can be asked essentially the same question. So I'm just going to make it up. What if we were asked to find the equation for the perpendicular bisector of a line segment AB, where A is the point -1, 7, and B is the point 5, -2, whatever. Okay, so just to sketch it for reference, -1, 7 is somewhere up here. 5, -2 is somewhere down there. So we want, there's the line segment. I'm calling this the midpoint, and we want a line that looks like this. Okay, so again, our point and our slope are what we're looking for. The point is going to be the midpoint, and the slope is going to be -1 over m, where m is, in this case, y2 minus y1.
Or x2 minus x1.
And we'll call this y2. Whoops. We won't call that y2. We'll call this
x2.
x2, y2, and x1, y1. All right. Okay, midpoint. You remember the midpoint formula?
Sort of. I know it's taking the average of
Right,
adding to
right.
them,
So the midpoint formula, if I'm going to write it out, it's going to be...
Is it x1 plus x2
over
2?
2, comma...
y1 minus y2. Oh, y plus y2 over 2.
And like we said, the best way to think about this, or like you said, is I'm looking at this orange line segment. The x-coordinate of the midpoint is the midpoint of that orange line segment, which is the average of the endpoints. Okay? Same thing for y. So these two give us the coordinates of the midpoint, and they're exactly halfway between the endpoints, and the short way to figure that out is the average. All right. What is this? x1 plus y1, negative 1 plus 5 over 2, comma, 7 plus negative 2 over 2, which is 2, comma, 5 over 2 is 2.5. So we'll call it 5 halves. Okay. And the slope is going to be minus 2 minus 7 over 5 minus 1, which is minus 9 over 6 minus 3 halves, which agrees with the picture that we've drawn. It is a negative slope, and I mean, I kind of was sloppy in sketching it, but it looks like steeper than negative 1, right? Okay, so negative 1 over m is what? 2/3.
Yeah.
Okay. This and this are the slope and the point that go into my point slope recipe. So y minus 5 halves equals 2/3 times x minus 2. And the crowd goes wild, right? Again, let's look at, does this make sense with our picture? Sure enough, that looks like, sure, positive slope of 2/3. And we'll do a little manipulation to make sure the y-intercept makes sense. 2/3 x minus 4/3 plus 5 halves equals y. Whoops. Okay, plus 7/6. Does that even make sense? Sure. That looks like about a y. That's when I said at the end plus 7/6, I was solving for the y-intercept to make sure that it makes sense. Both times on these problems at the end, actually maybe not both times. Did we check our example in the first one to see if it made sense? That would involve graphing this line.
Yes.
Which is a little gross. To the extent possible, check to make sure your answers are not ridiculous.
Yes.
And that's one way to combat the whole only get credit for exactly right answers. Okay.